communication this week is going to be a little bit out of the ordinary, okay? And there's a huge propensity to be misunderstood. So you're really wanting to actively check for listening, for understanding. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, She Tells Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at She Tells Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast. Welcome to the Astro forecast for the week of September 1st to the 7th. It is about to get spicy up in here, y'all. We are entering eclipse season. The outer planets, 3 of the outer planets in the next month, 2 months, is going to go retrograde back into the signs that we have been in for a number of years, testing us. How much have we learned? How much have you learned over this beginning of this year till now? So the first 9 months of the year, did you learn about this new energy, about choosing new things, about the patterns that you've been in, and how now when you revisit those patterns, you're going to choose something different? And if you don't, well, you're back in the pattern again, right? But if you choose something different, my friends, new, abundant, prosperous, successful opportunities are available to you. And you're in a new cycle, aren't you? Right? So new things, you get a little wobbly and you're starting out on these new, journeys. So these 3 outer planets that are kind of generational planets, we call them, they make generations. And it is Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are going to be moving back into their old signs. Saturn and Uranus this month. Neptune will be moving back in October. And these degrees in which these outer planets are moving from, because they're retrograde, so they're moving from a 0 degree of the sign that they're in to a 29 degree of the previous sign that they were in for the last few years. And this is now a test, right? These 0 and 29 degrees are considered critical degrees in astrology because they're big points of learning. They're big points of testing, right? 0 is you're moving into a new sign. You're kind of getting your feet wet. You're figuring out, like baby giraffe, you're trying to figure out how to be in this new energy, this new characteristic, traits, and energy of this new sign. And when we go back to the 29th degree, it's a test of how much did you learn of that sign, how much it's sort of the test of the hardest parts of that sign and how you integrate those and move into the best parts of the sign. So everything has its balance, right? We all have the shadow and the light in every sign in the zodiac, in ourselves, in all the traits and the gates and traits of the human design. So we're learning, we're learning from the shadow to the wisdom to the highest wisdom in everything that we're doing. And if you're so lucky, by the time you take your last breath, you might get to the highest wisdom of 20% of your soul. There's so much brilliance to be had in your soul. So you're right on track. So as we start out the week on Monday, September 1st, we are in a second quarter phase of the moon in Sagittarius. We will end off the week in a eclipse. So this is eclipse season, my friends. Like, this is where eclipses are jump points of evolution for the collective. And it's when a new moon or full moon happens at one of the nodes of the moon. And the nodes of the moon are about karmic destiny and karmic past. So I'll talk about that as we get to it. We are fully in eclipse season this week, and eclipse season brings about changes. Evolutionary changes. This is now not a time to be manifesting or trying to make the universe do the things for you, because the universe is already bringing up energies in your life that are evolutionary. They're changing. So noticing what's coming up for you this week. So on Monday, September 1st, the second quarter phase in Sagittarius, this gives us optimism. The moon is bringing up optimism, optimistic opportunities, possibilities, looking at the brighter side of life, looking at where may this be taking us, because everything we are going through is building the bridge to where we need to go next. Right? Everything for an opportunity. Nothing is trying to push you down in the mud. And you might be feeling like that. It's been a turbulent time for the collective. And we are part of that. So how you are experiencing things within is a reflection without, right? As within, so without. So how can we make things less turbulent within ourselves? More flow, more intuition, really stepping into our own divine knowing and trusting that everything's going to work out for us. It always does. So on Monday, September 1st, Saturn retrograde moves back into Pisces. So remember, retrograde means a planet is going slower than the Earth, mathematically negative to the Earth, right? It's always in comparison to the Earth because we are on the planet of Earth going around the solar system. We are shooting around the solar system on this rock. And in our perspective, Saturn is now slowing down in its trajectory around the sun. So it's starting to go, it has gone backward, it's going backwards mathematically, slower than the Earth. And it's now moved into the zodiac sign of Pisces from Aries. That's a very different energy. Aries is initiatory, bold, entrepreneurial. It wants to get things going. It's the spark of life that makes everything start. It's the strike of the match, if you will. And Pisces is the spirituality, it's transcendence, it's healing, it's water, it's one love, it's empathy, it's this coming together and helping each other, but it's to evolve and transcend this life. It's your spirit. It's the universe, it's God, it's consciousness, and so when we think about going back from this bold entrepreneurial, let's go back into this watery soup, it's not easy. As a Virgo who likes to do things, we're now going into a feeling sign, which is my opposite sign. This is a challenge for me, and it's likely going to be a challenge for all of us. This is why lessons are coming up, because you're going to be tested. So Saturn, the planet of structure and life lessons, re-enters the watery sign of Pisces. This invites a collective review of boundaries, emotional responsibilities, and spiritual foundations. It's a second chance to build inner stability through surrender rather than control. Ooh, surrender rather than control. And so there's a really beautiful opportunity to reflect on how you can support yourself emotionally and spiritually, and how you can flow with this energy, right? Where when we get overwhelmed and you want to run away, to numb, to soothe in ways that there's a high level soothing and there's low level soothing. Low level soothing is drugs and alcohol, shopping, pornography, and shutting everybody out. High level soothing is going to the gym, going for a walk in nature, meditation, making yourself something delicious to eat, and then maybe watching some Netflix while you're watching that, and a little bowl of ice cream on the side. You know what I mean? Like, who am I to judge? But also choose higher level coping strategies if you have that available to you, or maybe make yourself available to those high level strategies. Talking to a therapist, grief counseling, those are all high level coping strategies that might be really supportive for you during this time. And then Tuesday, September 2nd, Mercury, now in full forward momentum, is moving into Virgo. This is its home sign, and Mercury is exalted in Virgo. So Mercury, the planet of communication, thought, coordination, our connection with our community around us, immediately around us, is in its home sign of Virgo, its favorite sign. Expect clear thinking, better organization, laser sharp focus on details. This is prime time to handle tasks that require discernment and precision. Whew. As a Virgo, that just makes me tingly all over, so exciting. I love Virgo season. I love when we are getting back into routines and schedules, and we're healthier. We're choosing better for ourselves. This is going to be a very supportive time for yourself to organize, to clean out the clutter, to get yourself on track with your goals, your mission, what needs to be done around the house. And this is a great energy for organizing your plans, editing projects, speaking clearly, writing. This is really great for any kind of communication. Really watching, though, the overthinking, the judging, and the hypercritical self-talk. Okay, because Virgo is a lot of that. Right? It's a very sharp mind, but we can get bogged down in details. We can be overcritical on ourselves, and just a lot of overthinking that comes along with Virgo. So being aware of that. Also on Tuesday, September 2nd, we have Mercury inconjunct to Saturn retrograde. So an inconjunct is a difficult one because it's sort of a challenging aspect to integrate. They can work together. So it is challenging, but it's like a tug of war between these two aspects of ourselves. So this aspect can feel like a tug of war between logic and intuition. Communication might feel blocked or misaligned with your emotional truth. Pause before reacting and give space for things to unfold. So we're not trying to you're not going to come into immediate clarity now. This is about your goals and your responsibilities and your logic and intuition, but also your responsibilities. And how do you want to make these things all come together? Right. So this is making me feel like budgets. This is making me feel like responsibilities, time, these constraints that don't let us just go and do the thing that we want to do. We have to start to organize. So maybe, this aspect slows things down. We really need to be very wise with our commitments and our goals. Revisiting our goals with compassion is going to be really helpful. I'm also going to jump back a little bit to something that I wanted to say about Saturn retrograde, because now Saturn's going to make all these aspects, which is going to then, as it goes direct later next year, we're going to have these aspects kind of again, but in a different way. So, to track Saturn retrograde in your chart or in your life, I want you to think back to May 24th when Saturn went into Aries. That was the day that Saturn went into Aries. So it went from 29 degrees of Pisces into 0 degrees of Aries. Now it's going the opposite direction, retrograde. It's going from 0 degrees of Aries to 29 degrees of Pisces on September 1st. And then it'll go back from the 29 degrees of Pisces into 0 degrees of Aries on February 13th, 2026. So these 3 dates will be connected. They will have things in common. And if you look back on your diary, your journaling, maybe in your emails, your phone, your pictures, look back to May 24th. What were you doing? What were you thinking about? Because Saturn is about responsibility, duty, structure, the roles we play in our life, and how are we taking authority and power in those roles, right? Saturn's also about responsible authoritarianism, not authoritarian, but being an authority, being a professional, being a leader in the world. So what does that look like for you back on May 24th, now September 1st, and then we're going to revisit it again and learn new lessons from February 13th. So the way my mentor explained it to me in astrology was that you get a glimpse of the lesson May 24th. Now you go deep into understanding what this lesson is about for you, September 1st. And then February 13th, now you're living the lesson out into the world as a new person who understands this in a deeper way. So it's almost like you're the seeker at the beginning, then you're the sower, and then you're the sage at the end. So it's this experiencer, this person that's integrating it, and now you're wise after it. So this is bringing up this opportunity for you. I hope you see this in a different way, because you're not going to hear about this from the astrologers online. This is literally wisdom passed down from my mentor to me, who she then learned it from her mentor. It was an older time of passing down information that you don't really find this kind of stuff in textbooks. So something to think about, because we're going to talk about it again as it pertains to Uranus as well, because I believe yes, Uranus is going retrograde on the 6th. So we'll talk about it when we get there. So now, going forward again in time to Wednesday, September 3rd, Mercury in Virgo is now inconjunct to Neptune, because Neptune and Saturn are moving together in the sky. So your mind wants facts, but your intuition whispers something else. This aspect creates mental fog, confusion, especially in decision making. Avoid making big choices, just observe. So, this is not a time to make a big decision. So hopefully you took advantage of the last 2 weeks, because that was a good time to launch, to make big choices, to do big things. And now we're coming into a time of confusion on purpose. The universe wants you to stop and start to think about, what are all these things that you were saying yes to? What are all these responsibilities that you've automatically just put your name beside because that's what you've always done, right? Or these are the routines I've always done in September. Well, why? Do you want those? Do you really want to, maybe you want to change it up a little bit? Maybe you want to hire a cleaning lady. Maybe you want to organize, have someone organize your house as a professional room organizer, or you want to go room by room and enlist the people in your family to do the same because you're doing it together. You're not doing this by yourself. Community connection, Mercury. So this is not a time to be seeking answers. This is a time to let your imagination flow, to let the dreamer come out in you, and to really feel what your next steps might be. But this is not the week to take that action. Okay. Also on Wednesday, we have Mercury square to Uranus, another Mercury aspect this week. Everything is a Mercury. It's a very mercurial week, which is the mind. And this square to Gemini, Uranus and Gemini, is unexpected news, changes to your agenda. You think you're going to be all organized and do all these things, and then bam, either there's like a family emergency, or all of a sudden you got to go do this thing, or your day is thrown into chaos, right? Uranus can be chaos, especially when it's square to Mercury. This miscommunications as well at this point. This can act like a Mercury retrograde. Tech issues may pop up. This is a mentally restless day filled with surprises and breakthroughs, right? This is not meant to just ruin your day. If you are structured, rigid, and cannot change with crisis, you will have a tough time today. So the mantra for today is, I flow with ease with any change that presents itself to me today. I flow with ease with any change that presents itself with me today, seeing the genius that is coming up through this change, because everything is presenting you with an opportunity. So Wednesday is a day of opportunities. Stay adaptable, stay open-minded. This is a great time to break through thought patterns, innovate on how you communicate. This could be out of the box thinking solutions that can come out. Really notice if you have any impulsivity today. This is not a day to spend money. Not a day to buy anything big or to make big changes in the stock market. Not good. This is going to be a bit of a turbulent week. So really just kind of staying put. You're flowing with the waves. Your motor, if you're trying to think your way through, which is your motor, you're going to be fighting the current. This is one of those days, one of those weeks where you want to turn off the motor, which is your mind, and set out the sail, which is your intuition, and harness the winds that are coming up for you this week. Really flowing with those winds with your sail and just noticing what's coming up with you, paying attention to your emotions, and letting yourself just navigate the winds that are coming up now. Okay. Also on Wednesday, we have Mercury in conjunct to Pluto. So power struggles and communication may surface, especially around authority or group dynamics. You may feel unseen or misunderstood, especially if you're pushing. Observe your emotional triggers. This is a good time for deep inner reflection and shadow work around self expression. So, this Uranus is making communication, and this Neptune and this Saturn communication this week is going to be a little bit out of the ordinary. Okay. And there's a huge propensity to be misunderstood. So, you're really wanting to actively check for listening for understanding, right? And active listening is checking for understanding. I feel like you might not have quite heard what I said there, or I don't want you to misunderstand. Let me clarify this, or can you repeat back to me what you heard me say? Like, these are, I know it sounds kind of crazy, especially in corporate. You might not, they might feel like, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? But it saved me so many times because I could feel something. I could feel like somebody was triggered. The energy of the person changed, and I can see aura, so I can see that their energy sucked in. So something triggered them. So then I like to ask the question, I think I might have said that in a way that was a little triggering, and I did not mean that. What I'm trying to say is this, did you hear that? Like, can you repeat back to me what I said? Because I do not want to offend you. That's not my choice. Like, that's not my goal here. So, and sometimes the trigger is not because you said something wrong. It's because the other person just cannot receive you. So that's going to bring up relationship dynamics, in this week. And yeah, that's part of this Mercury energy that's coming up is going to bring to the surface things that need to be healed, and maybe things that have not been spoken, but have been simmering there for a while. So just notice that. On Thursday, September 4th, we have Mars square to Jupiter. So, to add a little bit more spice onto this week, this is going to amplify desire and action, but lack grounding. Right? We want to do when Jupiter is expansion, optimism, good luck, and Mars is our motivation to do. And when Mars is in Libra, we want to take care of people. We want to keep the peace. We want to be in harmony. We don't want conflict. We want fairness. We want peace. But Jupiter is expansion. So we are wanting to do so at the expense of ourselves, really. In this, you'll take on too many things. This is a overcommitment type of energy out of emotional impulse or patterns of the past. So notice where your enthusiasm overrides practicality. This is a good energy, a good tactic for this energy is let me get back to you on that. Let me check my calendar and get back to you on that. Can I get back to you tomorrow or can I get back to you next week? So instead of saying yes to everything this week, you're really wanting to pause, go back into your calendar and see what this commitment is really going to mean about leaving your house, leaving your cozy house, right? The money, that do you need this money for something else? Your time and energy, will you actually better spending that time and energy in a different way? And then saying a yes or a no. So do not say yes in the day on Thursday, but this energy is going to be in play this whole week, right? I'm going to say Wednesday, even Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So really being careful and cautious of what you're saying yes to. This is a week to pause, to step back, and to notice the cost of everything. Every yes has a cost. Paying attention to that. And then Saturday, September 6th, we have Uranus going retrograde back into so in Gemini. So it's just going retrograde. So it's been sitting on the same degree for a little while. Its momentum has shifted. It's going slower than the Earth, negative relative to the Earth. And it moved into Gemini July 7th, 2025. And it's going to move out of Gemini into Taurus November 7th. 2025, and then it'll move back into Gemini April 25th, 2026. So these 3 dates are going to be connected. So I'll talk about it again when we go into Taurus. So that's when Uranus goes into Taurus on November 7th. I'll talk about it again, but this is going to be all connected to each other. So Uranus retrograde is inviting inner revolutions in how we think, speak, and learn. This is a call to question old mental patterns and beliefs about what is possible. Expect tech glitches yet again, but also brilliant downloads, right? This is a time now. Gemini is a mental sign, it's an air sign, and it's about the mind and the way we think. It's also about connection, community, and curiosity. So when Uranus is going retrograde in Gemini, it is now inward. There's this inner rebelliousness. We want to break free from the patterns of the past as it relates to communication, the way we say things, how we've been doing things within our community. And we're wanting to get curious about where those patterns started. Why are we continuing them? This is a break free from mental limitations and outdated ideas. What a wonderful opportunity this is. And again, Uranus is going to be retrograde for some time and won't be back into Gemini until April 25, 2026. So this is a long journey, my friends. This is the beginning. Uranus has just started to go retrograde in Gemini. It won't leave Gemini until November 7th. So pay attention between now and November 7th. What's happening for you? Because you're going to go over this degrees again April 25th, 2026 into next year as well. So just paying attention. And then Sunday, September 7th is the big change maker of the week, the big daddy of the week, the thing that's going to really affect us all. And it's the full moon eclipse in Pisces. So not only is it a full moon, that is, the sun and the moon are opposite each other in the zodiac. The sun represents our divine masculine or our mind, and what's actually our identity is the sun. And our moon, the moon represents our emotional matrix or divine feminine, our intuition. So we have these 2 parts of us that are literally sitting in opposition to each other. And the sun is in Virgo, right? Wants to be of service. It wants to be healthy. It wants to just take care of people and be of service. And the moon is in watery Pisces saying, no, feel your way. Don't want too much thinking. That's yucky. Why don't we just feel what's coming up for us? The intuition, connect with the divine. And Virgo's like, let's put that into action. Let's do something with that. So we need both, right? We need that balance. When we have an opposition, two things on other sides, think of it as like a teeter-totter. And we need to find that fulcrum point, that middle ground. My teacher loved to talk about the fulcrum point because that middle ground is where we find brilliance, is where the two can come together and integrate. And then we have action from divine knowing. That is like genius energy, right? So it is that balancing act. But now we're going to add in that it's in Pisces. So Pisces is it's the most emotional sign of the zodiac. It's the most watery. It goes wherever it needs to. It's mutable. And Pisces requires boundaries because it is so empathic. It can just feel what everybody feels. So the emotional scale is going to be turned up to a 10. Okay. We're all going to be in our feels. We're all going to be very emotional. You can be crying at the drop of a hat. And I'm just going to say it's normal. It's normal. It's emotions moving. Tears are sacred here, especially in the grief journey. Releasing those tears, or it can be tears of joy, right? Tears of joy, tears of sadness, tears of grief, whatever it is, let them roll. It's okay. And this is an eclipse. So this is a North Node eclipse, meaning the North Node is in Pisces and the moon is in Pisces, and they're sitting close-ish together. So this eclipse is now a North Node eclipse or a karmic destiny eclipse. We're going to get a glimpse into our future as a collective coming together in spiritualness to hold each other, to be connected to each other, to be in compassion, in empathy, in this divine oneness. This is gonna, I feel like there's a beauty here. I'm an optimist, so I feel like we can come together and see how we need each other, how one person's sorrow doesn't mean that my sorrow isn't worthy. We're seeing that a lot right now in the world, where this person did this to me, so then we retaliate, you deserve this, and they're like, no children deserve to starve. It's like, where were you when they captured the hostages? It's like, I also thought that was wrong. They both can be wrong at the same time. One doesn't get to be right because the other one's wrong. They both get to be wrong. Everyone gets to live. Everyone gets to have food. Everyone gets to feel safe. We all deserve that. And because one person gets to feel safe does not mean the other person cannot feel safe. So I know that's very simplifying things, but it is this compassion and this one love that we all get to. We're all nature. We're all an extension of Mother Earth, and we're all divine consciousness expressing itself. And yet we think we're so different from each other. Like that is not truth. That is a construct that was created by man to keep us against each other, which is friction. So the power of the North Node eclipse illuminates your spiritual path and your emotional truth. With Neptune and Saturn involved as well, illusions are dissolving. You may feel called to release outdated beliefs, emotional crutches, and karmic patterns. Your intuition is razor sharp. Listen to it. Opportunities for forgiveness, release, alignment, soul purpose. The seeds that you planted at the last new moon on February 27th, 2025 will be coming to fruition now. So you're not meant to manifest, but just even noticing, you can go back to February 27th, which was the last new moon in Pisces, and see if there's any similarities, if there's any patterns. This is not a full moon to be manifesting, to be charging moon water, to be charging your crystals. This is bucking bronco energy, moving obstacles of your spiritual path. Okay. If you want to charge your crystals with that, you're going to get that. If you charge your water with that, every time you drink your water, you're going to get that. So being cautious because things are already moving. This is already turbulent energy. If you want to start to ingest it or have these crystals in your home, there's going to be that energy is going to be in your home too. So really paying attention to the kinds of moons, new moons and full moons that you are doing things with, doing these spiritual things with. This is not a time to be charging crystals, charging water, manifesting, burning things, all the things. This is a time to be quiet and to just listen to what is coming up around you. You can even do a little meditation, a little journaling, gratitude to the universe of whatever is closing. A full moon is a time of release, a time of closure, things that are coming to fruition. And as we come to the new moon, which will be in 2 weeks, there will be a new beginning coming up, but another eclipse, because eclipses always come in pairs. So that concludes the astrology of this week. It is a big week in the astrology, one of the biggest weeks for sure for this year. And we're just getting started, right? This is just the beginning, first week of September, y'all. It's going to be a time this year. We always say, the way that an event starts, that kind of that energy will permeate through. And, this year started pretty turbulent. It started in a very introspective way, and a lot of life lessons have already come up. I know the first 6 months of this year was just harrowing for me. And, a lot of emergencies, a lot of, just awful things were happening. And I've just been noticing that with a lot of people that are coming, in my circle as well, that there's just been a lot of change this year. And change comes in the form of diagnosis, surgeries, death, accidents, unpredictable things that are just happening now. And so we need to give ourselves certainty by, I like to give gratitude for the things that are really going well. Because we can focus on the pile of, if you've been watching my stories, if you've ever had coaching with me, I always say all of us have 2 piles in our life, a pile of gold and a pile of poop. And whatever you focus on, you create in your life. So if you can create and focus on the pile of gold while minimizing and healing your pile of shit, not minimizing in terms of like we're not looking at it, but we're healing it. We're seeing it for what it is. But we don't live in the poo. We live in the gold, right? You have a choice on how you live your life. And sometimes there's stuff added to the pile of poo. Let's be honest. We all have the pile of poo in our lives. But if we can live more in the gold and we can give gratitude every day when I fall asleep, I'm grateful for 3 things that I fall asleep to in my mind, whatever the 3 things are. I actually try to count more, but I'm normally asleep by my 3rd thing. So even if it's just electricity, that you have a roof over your head, that the majority of the bills are paid, that you have books to read, you have food in the fridge, grateful, so grateful. I am so grateful for you, for listening to this podcast, for sharing it to people. And I'm going to ask this week, if this resonated with you, to share it to someone who is interested in astrology, because I have just been seeing so much crap on the internet about what's real and what's not. I'm a certified astrologer, which means I had to go to school. I had to write a very long freaking 6-hour exam and pass it with 70%. I have to have my ethics. I have to have my consultation skills. Like there was a lot to my certification, and it's because I know astrology inside out. I understand it through and through. And I just see so much misinformation being shared online, and it drives me bonkers. It's what actually started me doing new moon, full moon posts on social media, and why I do this podcast. So if you can share it with anyone that you feel would really benefit from listening to an actual astrologer talking about the benefits of all of these transits, that it can really support you in your life. This is like weather. It is just about you understanding why your boss is going bonkers. And oh, it's a full moon, by the way. And oh, tech is going crazy. Well, there's a Mercury square to Uranus today. The astrologer told me about that. Yeah. Take a grain of salt, have a cup of coffee. The computer's rebooting. Like, it's just going to give you patience and peace, because that's that sail on your boat. You are just sailing with the winds. You cannot control the universe. You can try, with your mind, but really you're just sailing. We're all just sailing and harnessing the wind. So wishing you an easeful week, harnessing the wind, flowing with shifts in your life, and knowing that it's taking you to higher highs than you ever had before. Sending you so much love from my heart to yours. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul at purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.shetellstory.com and follow us on Instagram at shetellstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is She Tells Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legalese that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of She Tells Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.